Hi guys, how are you all doing? Welcome to my channel. This is the tennis world with the tennis expert. I am your tennis expert, and what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about part two of my series of Nadal versus Djokovic and their matchup. My first video was Nadal versus Djokovic on a grass and a hard court. If you've not watched that, that's the first part of the series. So please go back and watch that one first before you're going to watch this one. But you could do it the other way around, but it's just more just sort of the way that I've set it up, right? But now this video is about what happens between Nadal and Djokovic on a clay court, right? And my first video was Nadal versus Djokovic on a grass and a hard court. I talked about why Djokovic is better and what Nadal can do to be better and turn the matchup around, and what are the advantages naturally for Djokovic on a grass and a hard court, right? So that's basically it. Um, yeah. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk about the clay court matchup, why Nadal's better and what Djokovic can do better. After my first video talking about Nadal, Djokovic on grass hard court, why Djokovic is better and what Nadal can do to turn it around. Continuing the series, now we're talking about clay. So firstly, what I would want to say is, some people ask and wonder, they see how fast Nadal's been in his career, running down balls, chasing after balls, defensive, and Djokovic too, and they think, is Djokovic better than Nadal, or is faster, or is Nadal faster? The answer is on very surface related, right? So like on a faster court, um, the ball, like if the ball is hidden very fast, quite far away from you on the court, you have no chance to get it anyway because it's going to travel fast through the court, right? So if the ball's being hit fast, slightly to the right and slightly to the left, what you've got to do is you've got to change direction very fast, and then your first few steps after the change directions fast has to be fast, and then sort of you've got to slide into the ball because you're not going to have much time. Djokovic does that great, better than Nadal. Nadal firstly has problems with knees and feet, so the first few steps, the change of direction is a problem. Djokovic is very fast, right? Then the ability to just take the first few steps very fast and slide into the ball, stretch out and use Djokovic's flexibility. He's better at that. Whereas Nadal's speed is more like slow on the change of direction, taking time to build up speed, and then when he gets his speed and has to run some distance, he can really get to a very high speed, faster than Djokovic. So on clay, if it's hit fast to the right or to the left of you, right, um, you don't need to be fast because you just take a few steps and the ball's traveling slowly. Everyone can do that, right? But the issue with defense on clay is that considering the ball's traveling slower through the court, and if you just hit it hard to the right or left, it's not going to do anything. You've got to hit it at an angle and quite far away from your opponent, right? So then, because the ball's going to be traveling slower at you but further away, you have the ability to change direction slowly, and then build up pace, and then really get to a sort of high sort of sprinting speed, and then get after balls, right? So Nadal does better at that. He's a slow change of direction, taking time to build up speed, but once he gets up speed, he can run sort of the length of the court very fast. Whereas Djokovic can do that, yes, but not as fast as Nadal. When he has time to build up a lot of speed and run the length of the court, it's not going to be as fast as Nadal. Nadal will be faster, and that's key to play. But Djokovic's speed is more like fast change of direction, no problem with the knees on a hard court, and then fast on the first few steps, and then slide into it. You don't have any more time than that because it's going faster. Whereas Nadal's going to change direction slowly because of the problem with the knees and feet. So that's why Djokovic will be faster at getting to balls on a grass and hard court. But on clay, where you have time to change the direction slowly and take time to build up and get up to full speed, and you're going to need to run because the ball's traveling slow, you're going to be able to have the chance to run the full length of the court to get the balls quite far from you. Nadal is better in that kind of speed, right? So then some people say, who's better at the return of serve, Nadal or Djokovic? Well, most people would say the answer is clear Djokovic. If you take it across all courts, including clay, and you average it out, yes, Djokovic is a better returner than Nadal. But when you're on clay, it doesn't matter what you do consistently across all surfaces. It's just we're playing a match right now on clay. Who's going to return better in this match, right? So what Nadal does is the ball will hit the clay surface, right? Lose all its speed, and it's hitting in the service box to serve. So then it has to travel to the very back of where the court is, where the baseline is. But Nadal's standing at the back fence where the linesman stands. So if it hits the service box, hits the slow clay, by the time it travels all the way back to the back fence, it's got no speed on it, right? So that enables, like usually when there's fast first serves coming, you've got to block at it, and it's going to be short, and then the other guy control the court. But because it's hitting the slow clay, traveling to the back fence, Nadal actually has time to have a full swing of the racket from back there and hit the ball back deep and then force you into 50-50 rallies. Whereas Djokovic, when he's like a good returner on fast courts, the problem is clay bounces higher. So he's trying to stand up on the baseline and attack and get control of the point with the aggressive return serve. But the ball's going to bounce high, so you need to stand back a bit to let the ball sort of come down a bit more because on clay it's too high. So Djokovic's normal attacking position, stand up on the baseline, right? It's going too high, so you can't attack it because it bounces high as well as slow on clay, right? So Djokovic now needs to stand back to deal with the bounce, which prevents him standing forward and attacking it. So in a way, even though the ball's traveling slower on clay from the opponent's serve, it should be better for you to return their serve. Because of the high bounce, Djokovic has to stand a bit back to wait for the ball being too high to come down a bit, and it reduces his attacking potential. Whereas for Nadal, on fast courts, he's rushed because he wants to get a big swing, and the serve's going too fast through the court, and he misses a lot of returns that Djokovic would make. Djokovic on the fast court's able to say, well, the ball's going so fast that most people can't get it back. Not only can I get it back, but I can get it back deep and actually put the server in a defensive position, which is amazing. And then huge, like 220, 200-kilometer serves that guys can't even get a racket on, he's at least able to get those back and at least force you into some sort of a rally. Whereas Nadal can't get those back as much. And then Nadal doesn't have this amazing ability to get great serves back and get them deep on the fast court. So Djokovic returns way better. But when we're talking that's on the fast courts. When we're talking just on clay, because the ball hits the slow clay court, loses all its pace, has to travel all the way to the back fence when Nadal stands back. It's got no power. Nadal gets a full swing of the racket and gets the ball deep and forces you into a rally. Whereas Djokovic can't really get up on the baseline and attack in the way he wants because of the high bounce and has got to stand back. So Nadal is actually a better returner because even on a first serve, he's able to return everything back deep with top spin near the back line, and it's going to jump up at you higher up, right? And he's going to force you into a rally every single time and take away complete advantage of your serve. On a clay court, faster courts, he can't do that and can't make a lot of returns. A lot of his returns are short. Djokovic makes more returns and more deep returns. But on clay, because of the slow court and because of the time it takes to get through the court and get all the way back where he's standing at the back fence, he's able to make more returns than anyone else on the court and more returns deep and take out any advantage of your serve and is able to do that in a better way than Djokovic. Yes, Djokovic still returns good on clay, makes a lot of returns, but he wants to be on the baseline and attack on the return, but he can't. So Nadal's strategy of standing at the back fence, getting all the balls deep and forcing him to rally is the better one. And Nadal actually is better on clay from the return of serve, even though Djokovic is the best return of serve overall. Another thing about this is So Nadal's a better returner server. Nadal's a better mover on clay, better defensively. But on fast courts, I've explained, Djokovic is the better returner and the better mover because it's different type of movement and different type of returns to different type of serves. So the answer is who's a better returner and who's a better mover, speed running down balls. It's Djokovic on grass and hard court for the return and the movement. It's Nadal on the return and the movement on clay. So their games are very much suited to their surfaces. Another thing that I want to mention about this is I mentioned how in my first video how like Djokovic hits the ball flat without a lot of spin, and on these fast, low bouncing courts, what the court does is it allows balls to go going low, flat through the court to sort of skim through the court fast and low, and that makes Djokovic's move through fast and at an awkward low angle. But for Nadal, he's trying to do topspin, make it go up. Because it won't go up because it's low bouncing, it just slows down the ball. And while Djokovic is coming down to the knee to sort of a bit lower, and it's harder to get the ball, return the ball from back there, Nadal's actually top spins higher up and goes right into the hitting zone around the hip sort of rib area where you can just hammer it. Whereas Djokovic is coming through and slowing down and then going up in the hitting zone, right? Whereas Djokovic can just skim through the court fast and low. Whereas on this surface, because it's higher bouncing, now Nadal's top spin that was going to the hip, stomach, rib area is now kicking up to the head and neck, and it's very awkward. With a high bouncing clay court and Nadal's top spin that makes it bounce high, it's just jumping at your sort of head, neck, shoulder region. Whereas Djokovic's balls are not skimming low through the court anymore. Instead, they're bouncing from the uncomfortable knee region or shin or leg region on the lower bouncing courts up into the hitting zone. So now Djokovic's balls are bouncing not too low where it's uncomfortable because it's a high bouncing court, clay, higher up right into the hitting zone, waist high. And it's not uncomfortable low anymore. It's bouncing up because it's high bouncing into the waist high. But Nadal's that was already into the waist high region on the low bouncing court, with his top spin making it go higher up. Now he's bouncing up to the head and neck. So Nadal's are coming to awkward places, head and neck region, whereas Djokovic's balls are lower bouncing without as much top spin, are going into the sort of stomach, hip area where you want to be hitting the ball. So Djokovic's balls are coming at a better place to attack, hip, stomach, all that. Nadal's are coming head and neck awkwardly on clay. That's so it's much harder Nadal's ball to hit a ball up here than it is sort of Djokovic's ball down in the sort of rib, stomach, hip area. Whereas on the lower bouncing courts, it's opposite. Nadal's are in the stomach sort of hip area and Djokovic is awkwardly low. So you see now the high bouncing puts Djokovic's up into the hip area where you can just hit Djokovic's balls very easily, but Nadal's balls with the high bouncing and the top spin are up to the shoulders, neck and head and very awkward. So you can even see that how on the lower bouncing courts it's arriving at an awkward place too low that you would like for Djokovic, but right in the hitting zone for Nadal. But on clay it's right in the hitting zone Djokovic's shots, but Nadal's awkwardly high, head and neck sort of region. That's another thing to think about. Also, I mentioned how what Djokovic does on the fast courts, he has a better serve and a better return of serve. So his serves go through the court fast, first and second serve, gets 3 points, gets short balls where he can control the rally behind his serve, right? Attacks Nadal's second serve, puts Nadal into a defensive position, right? Puts Nadal into a defensive position, and controls the point. So it's either 75% of the time on those fast courts, you got Djokovic with the first serve and second serve getting a short ball, controlling the point. On Nadal's second serve, he's attacking Nadal's second serve, put him in a defensive position, controlling the points, right? And only on Nadal's first serve he has a chance to start the point ahead. So Nadal's always under pressure in these rallies, always behind, and Djokovic is inside the court, and all he needs to do is finish the ball finish the rally and hit it through a very fast court to get past Nadal's defense. And the ball's moving fast through the court, so it's easy for Djokovic to finish the rally and get past Nadal, right? Whereas on clay courts, what happens is Djokovic's first and second serve loses all the power, gets back to where Nadal's standing at the back fence, and Nadal's able to hit the ball back deep and force Djokovic into a 50-50 rally. And he's not in control of the rally. He's not inside the court. It's just a deep ball at his baseline and the back line. And now he's got to grind a 50-50 rally, and he's not getting any advantage out of the serve at all. And it's just two guys grinding at a 50-50 rally for Djokovic to just hold serve, right? Then when he tries to attack Nadal's second serve to start the point ahead, one, the ball's bouncing higher up, so it's harder for him to attack. He's got to stand back and hit it from further. Secondly, when he does get a great attacking return on Nadal's second serve, the ball hits the court, right? It slows down. And then Nadal has more time to react and get Djokovic's attacking return of serve back deep and again force him to 50-50 rally. So this whole idea that Djokovic is starting 75% of points ahead, it doesn't exist, right? So now both guys are not getting anything out of their serve or return of serve, and every point's like a 50-50 long grinding rally on a clay court, right? Then there were some other things that I mentioned, right? Even when Djokovic doesn't get like control of the point on the fast courts, they're in a 50-50 rally. He at least has enough kind of power to get the ball through the fast court and through Nadal's defense from the back baseline. But when he's at the back baseline on clay, which is going to be the majority of the time, because he's losing the advantage of his serve and his return of serve, he's got to be behind the baseline, hit the ball through the full length of the court and through a slow clay court and get the ball through Nadal's defense, which is very hard. And I mentioned like the way they have like Djokovic's the way he hits the ball in the rally, he's got a short backswing, a short swing, which is good for the fast courts because the ball's coming fast. You don't have time for a big swing, and that shorter swing it doesn't generate enough power. But on a fast court, it generates enough power to get through a fast court to finish the point and hit the winner. And he's never rushed; he's always ready because balls are traveling fast. He needs a shorter backswing. He gets it, and it creates just enough power to get through the fast courts, right? Now on clay, and then Nadal has a big motion on his shot, like particularly the forehand. So when the ball's traveling fast on the fast courts, Nadal's rush doesn't have time to get through the big swing, right? But on clay courts, what happens is the ball's traveling slow at you. So you have all this extra time to sort of get off a big swing. So Nadal now can get off the big swing, the full huge swing of the racket that he does, moving his whole body and put all his body and muscle and strength into it because it's traveling slower. He can never be rushed, and he always has time to set up, particularly on the forehand, and hit the ball very fast and hard. Whereas Djokovic, this extra time that he's getting because he's got a short backswing, he's not doing anything with it. And because it's clay, the ball's going to slow down at the other side of the court on the clay court. So he needs to generate more power to get it through the slower clay court to finish the point. But because he's only got a short backswing, yes, it's enough, generating enough power to get through a fast court. But to get through a slow clay court and Nadal's defense, this short swing isn't enough power. Whereas Nadal, who used to be rushed on the fast court, now the ball's traveling slow, so he's never rushed. He can have this huge big swing, generate a huge amount of power, and hit through any kind of slow court and any kind of defender. Whereas Djokovic is not getting anything out of this extra time, the ball traveling slower, because his swing is a short swing and is not generating enough power to get through the slow clay court, right? So anyway, so what ends up happening we get in a 50-50 rally because Djokovic's attacking return of serve is not getting through the court and not giving control of the rally. Djokovic's serves are not doing anything. He's getting into 50-50 rallies. So the serve and the return of serve goes out the window, and it just comes down to two players who have amazing defense, amazing speed, don't make hardly any mistakes or unforced errors, and can rally great and can move the guy around, right? So when you're not getting any mistakes or errors from your opponents, right? Um, and this rallying of each other is at a very high level, and you can't get any unforced errors. 3 points. So the only way to do it is to end the rally by you hitting the winner because your opponent's going to make no mistakes. And Nadal and Djokovic both do everything the other guy does. They both rally at an amazing level. They both have consistency. They both don't make errors, and they both have extreme speed and defense. So you're not getting any points from each other, 3 points, errors, right? Um, and so then you need to finish the points yourself. But then your opponent, Nadal or Djokovic, is both very fast. And even on a fast court, they're so fast it's hard to get past them to actually hit the error, to hit the winner, I mean. So they'll make you hit 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 really good shots just to get past them because they'll run everything down on a fast court, right? So on clay, the ball's traveling slower, right? So they have all this extra time to get to balls because the ball's traveling slower, so they have more time to run and get to these balls. So to finish off the point becomes even harder, right? So if you want to get past your opponent, Nadal or Djokovic, who are running very fast, the ball's traveling very slow at them through the slow play court, they're getting even more time to get to balls. It's very almost impossible to get past them. And then you can't just wait for an error because neither are going to give it to each other. So what happens here? It's these long grinding rallies. No one's getting mistakes for the opposition. Both have to have this challenge that you need to get the ball very fast through this slow play court with still enough power to get past someone who's running down everything and is very fast. So to do that, you need to generate a huge amount of power. And Nadal on his forehand, right? He has a huge he has time. The ball's traveling slow. He has time to set up. He has a huge swing on the forehand, right? And he has enough power to get through any defender on any court. Whereas Djokovic can get through Nadal on a fast court, get through people who are not very fast movers on clay, but with Nadal's speed and the slow court, Djokovic struggles to get enough power in this rally to actually get through Nadal's defense and finish the point with a winner. Whereas Nadal, now with all the time to set up, can't be rushed. This huge swing, it's going to generate more power. He has time to set up, and it generates enough power to get through even a slow court and even past a fast mover like Djokovic, right? So it basically just comes down to that. Nadal and Djokovic can do everything the other guy can do. No errors, great rallying, great defense, and then even more time to get the balls with their speed because the ball's traveling slower. So the main thing here is in these long rallies that are 50-50 rallies because Djokovic is not getting anything out of the serve or the attacking return of serve now. It's just long grinding rallies. Who has the power to hit through a slow play court to still generate enough power even through a slow play court past a fast mover like Nadal and Djokovic? The answer is it's Nadal with the forehand, right? Particularly. And he's never rushed. He always has time to set up for those big swings. It's able to hit through the slow play court and through Djokovic, right? The other thing that I'll mention is, right, in this sort of a situation, right, there's one thing where you have like a Medvedev or maybe Djokovic and Nadal too, consistent rallying, where it's just good, you make no errors, you move the other guy around, and all of this. But the problem is if you're going for a great defender on a slow court, just to get that one big powerful shot to get through them, it's not quite there, right? Um, and then you have huge power guys that can hit through any defender on any court. But usually they're going for a lot of power near the lines, If you make them hit 2 or 3 shots, eventually they're going to make a mistake, right? And make errors. So Djokovic runs down balls against such players and they go for too much and they make errors, right? But Nadal has like the consistency of a Medvedev and a Djokovic, but the power of these big hitters. But it's not like a big hitter where like you're going for a lot of power, but you're going to make a lot of mistakes because you're going for a lot. Or consistency like Medvedev, Djokovic, you're great in the rallies, you're moving your guy around, but just not quite enough power for the clay court and the fast mover to finish points. Nadal's got both the power of the big hitter, but the consistency and rally ability of like a Medvedev or a Djokovic, where he can hammer the ball with a lot of power on it, but he can do it for 5, 10, 7 shots with consistency, like a Djokovic or a Medvedev, but enough power to finish the point through this slow play court. I think that's why his forehand is the best shot in history, because that extreme level of power of these big hitters who go for a lot of winners and make a lot of errors, but yet the consistency to be in a long rally like a Medvedev or a Djokovic, that you can use that power, but do it over 5, 10, 15 shots and eventually get past. Because the thing is, on a clay court, you have a lot of power to hit through the clay court, yes, but it's still slow. And if the guy's fast, you might get it back 1 or 2 times, right? So you need to be patient and wait and keep hitting the powerful shots till you get past the defender. So with Nadal having both, he's a step ahead of everyone else because you've either got Medvedev, Djokovic that won't make the error and will wait, but won't have that big shot to finish it, or the guys with a huge power who can get through the court, but because it's clay and the opponent will have more time to run down balls, they won't be able to hit 5, 7 shots every single time and wait with patience because knowing that it's clay, knowing my opponent will have more time to get back balls, right? And I'm just going to be wait and I'm just going to be patient and I can hit these powerful shots for 5, 10 shots every single rally. They can't. Whereas Medvedev and the Djokovic can, but they don't have that big powerful shot to end it. Nadal has both the power, the consistency, the patience, and he can hit these powerful shots 5, 10, 15 shots, however long it takes, because if it's not still getting through the defender, because the reality is sometimes it's like the court's slow, Djokovic is fast. Yes, you're hitting it fast, but you're still not getting past him. But he's willing to keep hitting the powerful shots, keep moving Djokovic, keep with the patience until eventually it gets past Djokovic. Whereas Djokovic, yes, has that consistency and patience, but the power to just end the point and get through this slow clay court and get through Nadal's speed, he doesn't have it. Nadal does. So that's what decides it. And the other thing is, like I said, Nadal's topspin, the balls are bouncing up around Djokovic's head and neck all the time, which doesn't happen on the other courts. So that's the other advantage. But it just comes down to that, right? Nadal and Djokovic do everything the other guy does. Defense, running down balls, great rallying, no errors. But Nadal has the power on the forehand to get through this slow play court and through Djokovic's defense and speed. Djokovic doesn't really have it in this same way. And Djokovic doesn't get the advantage of starting the point ahead with the serve and the return of serve. And then another thing in the rally is where can Djokovic go, right? Like on the fast courts, he can hit the ball very fast, like to stop Nadal dominating him with his forehand. One, he can go to Nadal's backhand to get away from the forehand. Two, he can hit the ball very fast and hard into Nadal's forehand because Nadal has a big motion on the forehand. He's arriving late with the swing, right? So Djokovic getting the ball through the court, Nadal doesn't have time to set up on the forehand, or he can just go to Nadal's backhand on clay, right? One, you can't go at Nadal's forehand at all because the ball hits the clay, slows down. Nadal always has time to get through that big swing on a forehand and hammer it. You can never beat him for pace, which means you can never go to his forehand at all, and that's a big thing on clay, right? So you can only go to Nadal's backhand, whereas Djokovic won. He's starting 75% of the rallies ahead on the fast court. That's gone. He could at least hit the ball into Nadal's forehand and beat him for pace. Well, on the clay, that's gone because the ball's slow and Nadal has time to set up. You're just going to hammer a forehand and dominate you. So you can't do that either. So there's very few places you can hit the ball in the court. So it means you can exclusively only go to Nadal's backhand because whenever you go to the forehand, You can never beat him for pace. He's hitting the slow play court. Nadal has time to set up. He's hammering it. So you can only go to the backhand, right? But when you go to the backhand, what happens? Well, the ball's still going to hit the slow play court, and Nadal's going to have time to still run around the backhand and hit forehands. So you go to his forehand, the ball slows down. You can't rush Nadal. Nadal has time to set up on the forehand, and you just can't go to his forehand at all. You go to the backhand, because it's going through the slow play court slower, Nadal still has time to run around the backhand and even hit forehands then. So you need to hit, you can only really go to Nadal's backhand very wide on the court, and just such a small area you can hit it to. Whereas on the faster courts, you're starting the point ahead with the serve and the return. You can go into Nadal's forehand and you can arrive late on the forehand or the backhand, but now no starting the point ahead. You can't go to his forehand at all because it just hit the slow play court. He'll have time to set up and hammer a forehand. It's only the backhand. And even if it's not really good to the backhand, he'll still run around and he'll hit a forehand very hard on the slow play court because he has time. If you go to the backhand, slow it down, run around, hit forehand. So it's only very precision shots to the backhand. And then even then, it's hard to rush or pressure Nadal on his backhand because the ball's going slower and he's not rushed as much even there. So I just think that's why Nadal's better basically on clay. Um, there's few things Djokovic can do, right? Um, because like his serve and the return to serve, the advantage is gone, right? And then Nadal's doing everything he can do with the speed, the defense, the consistency, the rallying, but Nadal just has that big forehand to finish points and get through his defense on the clay court. Djokovic struggles to generate a lot of power through the court, right? I'll say this, right? When you look at Nadal's forehand and backhand, right, the best shot on the court is Nadal's forehand. Second best would be Djokovic's backhand, then Djokovic's forehand, and Nadal's backhand last. So on the fast courts, the balls can go to your forehand, their backhand. They both need to be really strong. Djokovic is. But on the clay, because when you even go to the backhand, they can run around and hit forehands, it becomes more like what's the one biggest shot on the court? And it's Nadal's forehand in the clay. And then also, you can't just have two good consistent shots because you need a huge weapon to get through this slow play court to finish points against great defenders. And Nadal has that in the forehand. So in clay, it becomes Nadal has the best shot on the court and it's his forehand. And that's what wins in the matches, I would say. And then the fact that he's hitting with top spinners going higher up and it's quite awkward. So what can Djokovic do about all of this, right? The thing is, he would really need to work out in the gym and be able to get a shot to generate a huge amount of power like Nadal does and match Nadal on his forehand, right? Because what usually happens in their matches, it's either they're both playing with their great rallying, consistent defense game, but Nadal's just got more power on his shots. So Nadal's pushing Djokovic around. So Djokovic goes between being overpowered, being pushed around in the rallies. Nadal's standing in the middle. Nadal's got more power on his rally shots. Nadal's pushing Djokovic around and making him run all the time. When Djokovic is sick of being in all these rallies where they're both playing with great rallying ability, great consistency, great defense, but Nadal's just doing it with a bit more power and controlling all the rallies. When Djokovic gets sick of that, what he ends up having to do is saying, I don't want Nadal to control all the rallies anymore. I don't want him to overpower me. So I'm just not going to play my normal rally game, right? I'm going to go with so much power, so close to the line to just try to finish the point and just hit the ball like so hard, so out of the normal for me, and just so close to the line. Because to get past someone on clay, you need the power and you need to get close to the line. But then that creates risk. More power, harder to control, closer to the line, more chance to the risk to miss. So then you usually end up missing, going for the lines, missing a whole lot of balls, making a whole lot of unforced errors in the attempt to not play your game and just hammer it near the line, saying, I don't want Nadal controlling the point. Djokovic hits a whole lot of unforced errors. They go back to their normal, consistent rally game. Nadal's got more power, particularly with the forehand. He's controlling the rally and he's winning again. Djokovic doesn't want to be controlled. He goes for all this power on the line and makes errors. So it's in that pattern. He's trying everything, nothing's working, right? But yeah, if he would work out on the gym and get a bigger swing on the forehand like Nadal has, that's not really his game, that could work. I've noticed like the couple of times he's won at the French Open. One was in 2015 when Nadal was like, when Nadal was like having a bad year. Everybody could beat him on clay, Murray, Nishikori. So of course Djokovic could do it. So yeah, when like they're at quite a close level, and Djokovic can be like one of the best ralliers and can do so many things Nadal does. So usually it's 4 sets for Nadal. So if Nadal's just a bit off, then because Djokovic is slightly behind, he can get him. So 2015 he got him, and then 2021 Nadal was playing with huge pain in the foot, and all these like long rallies they have, like not making any mistakes, the best two rallies in the history of the game. Even to finish a point and the win is hard because both guys are running after anything. It's so long rally, so much running. If you have an injury or problem with your foot, you're done. Nadal had pain in the foot. So that high level of extreme long rallies, so much running, Nadal couldn't do it to his normal level. So Djokovic took advantage and beat him. And we know it was a serious injury. Nadal was out for 6 months after that match. But just like the Australian Open this year, the French Open's Nadal's Grand Slam. So, like Djokovic said, I'll persevere through any pain, any injury. I still believe I can get the Australian Open. Nadal was the same, and he could probably still beat anyone else but Djokovic, even with that extreme pain. But when it's Nadal, Djokovic, and even at his best, it's still like 4 hours, 4 sets of running, and then there's a problem. Djokovic being just behind you, and now you've got a problem. You're not quite as good. Now you're losing. So there was one, an injury, and there was two, just a very bad year for Nadal when he was healthy in 2015. So because Djokovic is almost as good as him anyway, if he's a bit off, Djokovic can get that win. That's one thing. The other thing is like I saw in 2021 he hit the forehand angled, so he can sort of pull Nadal off the court very wide with a lot of angle. And then the next shot when Nadal gets it back on the court, it's now an open court. So you don't need as much extreme power to get past a very fast mover like Nadal on a slow play court, because now he's off the court's open, and then you hit it into the open court. So Djokovic has got enough power to do that, right? But it's very difficult. And like I said, Djokovic has won 10 Australian Opens, lost 8 matches there, but some of the wins were 5 sets, and he's just so good under pressure. There were so many other times he almost lost, right? So if you change a few things, you can maybe go from a 5 set loss to a 5 set win. And then there's the 8 losses, so there's still a chance. Nadal's lost 3 matches at the French Open, right? But then of his wins, he doesn't have all these great 5 set wins like Djokovic has at the Australian Open, because guys aren't even good enough to make him play a 5 set. You've got 3 losses and another 3 times where he had to go to a 5th set at the French Open. So that means every match other than 6 matches were for Nadal were either 3 sets or 4 sets over 100 and something matches. Only 6 matches are where he either lost or played a 5th set. So he's not having all these great victories in the 5th set like Djokovic is at the Australian Open, because people aren't even that close to even make it 5th set. Plus, he's only lost 3 matches. Djokovic has lost 8. You get what I'm trying to say here? So it's very hard for anyone to do anything, but Djokovic has got the best chance. And Djokovic's consistent normal game can push Nadal to 4 sets. In 2013, this is a healthy Nadal playing his best. He was up 4-2 in the 5th set, 9-7, and just played his tennis at an amazing level. So he's pushing Nadal to the limits. So if Nadal's slightly off his game, Djokovic is just behind, he can get the win. The only other things he can do is, like I've been saying in this video, is get more strength, have a bigger motion in the forehand, which I don't think he'll do, but also hit the forehand angle, pull Nadal off the court, and then hit it into the open court because you need less power. He could do that, but I still don't know if that'll be enough if Nadal's he's absolutely 10 out of 10 better. 10 out of 10 best. But if there's some kind of problem, or Nadal's having a day that's not at his best, or he's a bit injured, like not massively injured, but just playing with aches and pains and can't quite beat his 10 out of 10, Then Djokovic can get him along with doing these sort of tactics. Also, Djokovic hitting the ball deep on the back line because like the slowness of the clay court to finish the point, it gives him a problem. Now, yes, it's still going to hit this clay court and it's still going to slow down, but the distance the ball needs to travel is less because it's just hitting the back line and just needs to go from there to where Nadal's standing. So the amount the ball's going to slow down will be less. So it gives him a better chance to finish points and get past Nadal. But really, it's very hard because, like I said, we're talking about a guy who's lost 3 matches, and it's not a whole lot of close matches where he could have maybe lost 8 or 10 because he's won a whole lot to close. No, there's only 3 times that he's even been to a fifth set. So there's a big gap. Guys aren't even close. But Djokovic is close, and if he does these things and Nadal's slightly off, he can get him. So that's what I would recommend for Djokovic, right? So yeah, I think I've pretty much covered everything. So it's basically about the fact that Djokovic can't use his serves to start the point ahead, and his attacking return serve, his long grinding rallies, his consistency, his defense for both guys, and his long rallies and getting the ball because you're not going to get 3 points. Getting the ball through this slow clay court past a guy who's extremely fast, and Nadal, with not being rushed, having time to set up on the forehand, has that big shot to finish points, and he's either overpowering Djokovic in the rallies, or Djokovic is sick of being overpowered, has to change his game and say, I'm going to go for as much power near the line, but that attacking style doesn't work on clay because you've got to go for so much power, so close to the line to get past someone, and the chances of missing are high, and then you make all errors, and then you go back to your normal game, and Nadal's again dictating the rallies, right? So very tough thing to do, but I've explained why Nadal is better on the clay courts, why Djokovic is better on the fast grass and hard courts, because I think more Nadal can do to change the rivalry on grass and hard courts. Less Djokovic can do on clay, but there are still some things, and they both got wins against each other on. Like Nadal's got wins on the fast courts. Djokovic has beat Nadal on clay. 2 of the 3 in his career that he lost at the French Open were to Djokovic. Um, but yeah, and then the top spin advantage on the clay too. Nadal making the ball jump higher up. Oh, the last thing I forgot to mention, this is true for all courts, right? What usually decides Nadal and Djokovic's rivalry is Nadal hitting the forehand across court because Nadal grew up with Uncle Tony and they said, you're going to be a left-hander because your favorite shot, which for most people is a forehand, is going to be a forehand that's going to go across court. So you're going to have rallies where you're hammering your forehand, which is one of the best ever, and you're hammering it into someone's weakness in rallies, their backhand, right? And no one else has ever answered. Nadal, one of the best forehands ever, into a backhand, your weaker side. What can you do? You did that to Federer. Federer had no hope. Federer, it's a weakness. Nadal's got a great forehand, one of the best shots ever, and Federer had no answer. But Djokovic's best shot is actually the backhand, and he's fast and he's good defensive, right? So the problem is that normal game of Nadal hitting the forehand across court into the right-hander's backhand doesn't work against Djokovic. So what does work is, because Djokovic's defensive side, the weaker side is the forehand. So Nadal has to hit the forehand down the line. The problem is Nadal prefers to hit it across court. So that cross court is always there. The forehand down the line is great, but it's not as good and it's not always there. And it's not as reliable. But Nadal has to be good at that forehand down the line. If he does it on a fast court, the ball's bouncing low. Djokovic can just hammer the backhand back across court at him and rush him on the forehand. At least on clay, it's going to get a bit higher up on Djokovic and make it a bit harder for Djokovic to attack around the head, neck, shoulders, right? But on the fast courts, it's just not going through the court, trying to bounce up, not going up, going to the waist high, and Djokovic can just slam the backhand across court. And something that works is destroying Nadal. But on clay, it's a bit better, getting high up, harder for Djokovic to attack, but still he can do it. But on any surface, the forehand down the line for Nadal works. Flat, fast, down the line, because it's Nadal's stronger side, his forehand going into Djokovic's weaker side, on the defense at least, the backhand. Djokovic is great on defense and attack on the backhand, but on the forehand he's good in attacking to close out points, but defense not so much. So Nadal needs to say, I'm going to go away from my favorite forehand and I need to be good at my second favorite forehand, which is less reliable and it's not usually as good, but I need to perfect it. I need to make it good. When he does perfect it and hits the forehand down the line, great. He usually beats Djokovic on all courts. When he goes with the more comfortable shot across court, that's a bad matchup because Djokovic has a great backhand. So it's critical that Nadal on all courts, the majority of the time, even though it's not as comfortable, even though it's not as good, even though it's not as consistent, but sometimes it's amazing. He hits that forehand down the line and does it well. That's critical to beat Djokovic on all courts. And when he does that, hits the forehand down the line the majority and hits it well, he usually beats Djokovic on all courts. So that's critical. Is Nadal going with the safer option, forehand across court, or is he perfecting his second best forehand down the line, hitting it well? If he is, he usually beats Djokovic. When he goes cross court on the forehand, he usually doesn't, right? So that's my video for today. Subscribe, bell notification, thumbs up, guys. Have a great day, night, wherever you are in the world. Please subscribe and be back here for my next video. I'll definitely be previewing Acapulco, Dubai at the end of February. I'll be doing Indian Wells in Miami in March. All the Grand Slams, all the clay court seasons. So be back for all of that. Subscribe, bell notification, thumbs up. Have a great day, night, wherever you are in the world. And thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for being with me, and bye for now. Bye, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being with me.